Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and welcome to the snob Show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to our show. We want to thank you for your continued support. If you do want to support our show, you can head on over to patreon.com/snobos to watch the live show and to get exclusive content. For those who are our snobbists, we just wrapped up our snobbish show. Again, we are recording a day later of course, those of you who are listening to the recorded show. It won't make a difference because we'll still come out on Friday. But for our snobbist fam, we got a little bit of a late start due to some travel and due to some birthdays. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We're going to be a little bit abbreviated this week because we are recording a little bit late and we do have some other things going on, but we are going to kick it off with the Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. We're going to kick it off today with a pretty important topic. iOS 16.5.1 released a update, and it's not one of those updates you want to hang around and wait on. The two biggest things I think that well the three biggest things that I think this patch fixes. There are two security issues, and they were initially found by Russian hackers. iPhones are being hacked on in Russia, and so what these fixes do, it's fixing a kernel issue that would allow for an attacker to execute code with specific kernel privileges. Apple said, quote, Apple is aware of a report that this issue may have been actively exploited against versions of iOS released before iOS 15.7.
Mm.
So it's been out there for a minute. So it's one of those things where it's a real time security issue and not something you want to wait on. The second issue that it fixed was a flaw in WebKit. And this is essentially the engine that drives Safari. And a lot of times you hear us talk on the show a lot, use Safari because it's a bit safer than Google Chrome and some of the other browsers. But in this specific instance, the flaw could allow, I won't say does, but could allow an attacker to execute malicious code via the web. So again, Apple is aware of this as well. And this is what this patch is supposed to fix. Additionally, it fixes an issue related to a USB 3 camera adapter, a lightning to USB 3 camera adapter that prevents charging. So two huge security fixes and also a charging fix when it relates to using a camera adapter. Um, these are pretty serious security breaches and issues that this patch fixes. So don't delay. Go ahead and get your not only your phone, but there was updates for watchOS and macOS as well, and iPadOS. So go and make sure, if you haven't done so already, get these fixes done. If you have family members who aren't as savvy, make sure they know that need to go ahead and get these fixes updated as well.
So here's my concern. For the past couple of quote unquote important Apple security update now, please messages that they sent out,
Hmm.
it seems like they're all the same, right? So if I read this, the first one was fixes an issue that allows an attacker to execute code with kernel privileges. I've heard kernel privileges and execute code repeatedly, right? The
Hmm.
second one was enables an attacker to execute code via malicious web content. Maybe I'm crazy, but I've heard that before. So my concern with Apple and these recent batches of security updates, which all kind of sound the same. Again,
Mhm.
we're not inside of Apple, so we don't know exactly what's going on, which is probably a good thing. But the past couple of updates that Apple have deemed has been important have kind of all hovered around kernel privileges and executing code via malicious web content. My concern is these updates are coming out very, very frequently, and I just hope that people do it and don't ignore them,
Mhm.
because I could see somebody saying, "Man, the last time updated, they said it was all important and execute malicious code and kernel privileges, and the one before that it was kernels and malicious, and the one before that it was malicious code and executing kernel privileges." It's like, you know what? I don't know if I need to jump and update my devices, because the next one is going to be executing code via malicious, whatever the case may be. So it's almost like you become. I hope people don't become numb to the importance of these updates, because they seem to be coming more frequently than before. So I'm hoping that Apple is, I don't know what they can do, because of course people are always trying to find holes in software, specifically as popular as Apple. But I'm hoping Apple is not trying to, the sky is falling every single time, these updates come out. And as a result, people, kind of ignore them.
So the thing is, at any given time, if you follow, we'll put the link in the show notes. But in the actual article, they point you to the link for the specific type of vulnerability that it is. And CVE is a cybersecurity's basically standard. There are a list of CVE vulnerabilities at any given time on any given kernel on any given system, for lack of a better word. That's the broad term. So it's one of those things where there are so many different uh, webkits, rootkits that can be exploited in any type of operating system. So yeah, it sounds redundant, but most of the times in these issues, it's attacking a different type of vulnerability. So the all of the issues that are related start with CVE and then a number. And usually that naming convention includes the year and then like another enumeration that basically keeps track. But there's a list at even any given time that anybody can go and look at and see what vulnerabilities are, I guess, out there or that can be exploited. And it also lists, currently going on. Like I said, you can click on the list, you can search, for a specific type of WebKit or rootkit, and it'll bring up all of the vulnerabilities and the details that are related to it. And in this link, it pretty much, outlines, some of the specifics around it. And again, you can do this for any type of vulnerability that's out there. So again, it sounds redundant because in an OS, there are just so many different gates that you can go in and exploit. And each time it has to have its own type of, I guess, number tracking. Oh, I can't remember the ID number, if you want to call it that, that keeps track of what's been hit, what's been resolved, or what's ongoing. So it's one of those things where when they talk about rootkit or WebKit or any type of security vulnerability, even if it sounds the same, take it as serious as it is because each exploit, is associated with a specific type of vulnerability. And you want to make sure that you keep track of it and keep track of ensuring that you're on the latest and that you update because again all of these things are currently cybersecurity. As we know, people do an exploit or they hack something, a company comes out with a patch to fix it. That doesn't stop them from finding other ways around to get to whatever type of exploit they're trying to do, whatever they're trying to hack, whatever type of information they're trying to get. They just come at it at a different angle. So again, this is pretty severe. Even Apple you know, said, this is pretty serious. And for Apple, to say, yeah, this is a big deal, that to me signifies more than anything how big of a deal it is for Apple to, release this type of detail around it. And if you read any other cybersecurity experts, which I am not, I have a basic knowledge, a basic understanding of it. um Everything that I've read, because it's come up several times when I was, looking for things for the show, and the severity around it, not to really scare people, but to let people know that this is pretty severe, and you want to do it as soon as possible to prevent yourself and your devices from being exploited.
Which brings up my second point. Why didn't they Apple push this out via the rapid security response feature that they announced a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago, maybe even a year ago, that automatically pushes these updates to the device versus the
Mm,
user having to do something, right? Whether it be manually go in and do the update, or wait, or enable the automatic update and then wait for that update to eventually hit their device when it's charged up, so on and so forth. The whole point, so we thought, of
mm,
Apple coming out with this rapid security response feature is for something that sounds serious like this, for Apple to automatically push it out and say, "Hey, this is what we're doing. This you ain't got to do. You ain't got to worry about it. No action
we
needed on
got
your
you.
part. We gonna do it."
Yeah.
So it's, again, I guess it goes back to, I trust Apple knows what they doing, but it
Hmm.
just seems like a lot of this news is coming out, and it's like, I hope Apple knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And in this article from Forbes, that's one of the questions they asked. Why didn't they use rapid response? They haven't gotten any indication from Apple as to why. But in this article, they, make some assumptions. It could be because it's too new. It could be because it is so high profile that they want to make a point to say, hey, we're not trying to hide anything. We acknowledge this issue. We're going to be, transparent as Apple's going to be about it. So we're going to make it its own thing so that, we can say it's transparency on our end. Those explanations sound kind of weak to me. And again, this person is just making an educated guess. But I would really like to know, as you would, why not? Because that's the whole point of rapid response, right?
Yep.
Interesting stuff. But the takeaway is upgrade this as soon as possible, because actual attacks have happened on phones. As I mentioned, I think I read somewhere that it's happened in Russia. So these are active attacks that have happened and can happen if you don't get this patch in place. So um, make sure you get that done uh, pretty quickly to save yourself a little bit of heartache. Next up, so we talked last week, and was it maybe the week before,
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks
about
ago.
Apple's new AR VR headset, Vision Pro. So again, when I was researching articles for today, there was a lot of Vision Pro talk. It was people's um, thoughts on the hardware and the software, what they think, what they can expect. But this particular article highlights that the first beta for Vision OS has been given to developers. And this is basically giving folks the opportunity to start to design and create for Vision Pro. Specifically, it talks about the environments, and there are several different environments that are in the beta that can be used to essentially shut out the world and basically fully immerse you into the vision, I guess, world or space. I don't even know if we have a word for it. But these multiple environments allow you to essentially i- immerse yourself into the headset, block out any type of peripheral uh, surroundings or background, so you feel as if you're fully into it. And Apple says environments let you transform the space around you so apps can extend beyond the dimensions of your room. So you can choose from a selection of beautiful landscapes or magically replace your ceiling with a clear, open sky. There are 13 environments so far that range from the beach to the moon. There's some generic locations. And there are also some real world views. Hialeah National Park in Maui, Joshua Tree in Southern California, Lake Varangela in Norway, Mount Hood National Forest in Oregon, and Yosemite National Park in California. Again, it's one of those things where if you are a developer and you got a chance to play with this at WWDC, or if you're one of the very, I'm sure, few select people who get some of these devices early for development purposes, this is what it is allowing you to do. Does this make you a little bit more prone to wanting to get this first generation?
No. Simply because, in addition to announcing what developers can at this moment do with Vision OS, it also outlines what you can't do. And
Hmm.
some of the things you can't do are some of the things that I would want to do with a pair of AR Vision headsets, which would
Hmm.
be movement based apps that follow location changes or offer turn by turn directions or navigation, photography apps, despite the Vision Pro having a bunch of cameras on board. Now, again, I want to do specifically like the turn by turn, being able to move around in
Hmm.
my world with the glasses on
Hmm.
versus being transplanted, taken to a different environment, right? I
Hmm.
want to move around in my world and have this heads up display of
Hmm.
additional information that I can surface while I'm doing work, whether it be working at my desk, whether it be walking around my house, whether it be out taking a walk, right?
Hmm.
So it seems like a lot of those things is what the Vision OS can't do right now. And I'm pretty sure that has nothing to do with all the things I just said.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure it has to do with people running into walls, people tripping over furniture,
Hmm.
people actually doing things that involve movement because what Apple and Vision do not want you to do is hurt yourself trying to use it. And it's actually
Lawsuit.
right, and it's been promoted as a productivity device.
Mm,
So typically you're gonna be stationary, whether it be
mm,
sitting down, standing up. You're not gonna be doing too much movement because Apple is going to surface all of this information in your peripheral, right? Versus
mhm,
you actually having to move around and do things like with the Oculus, where you do exercising,
mhm,
where you do gaming, and where
mhm,
you are looking at screens to where you naturally are going to want to move, whether it be to do some sort of action or whatever the case may be. And we've seen all the videos, where people running in the walls, falling over stuff and hurting themselves because they're in this world to where they're actually moving. Apple's like, nope, we need you to sit still, get your work done, do this productivity stuff, without having to worry about moving around while you're
mhm.
semi immersed.
Right. So, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but along with the latest beta of iOS 17, this was released. This Vision OS beta, the first one, was released this week as well. So it appears that you don't need the headset to explore the software, which I find interesting. You only need the Xcode beta, the latest Xcode beta. I may actually download it and play around with it to see what this is about, but I find it a little bit hard to, I guess, for me to comprehend. I'm a visual person on how, just looking at it from the software gives you a feel. I don't know if they're videos to kind of give you a simulation of what it looks like in the headset. I'm not sure. So
What are
because
you
I
talking
am a
about
little bit
via
intrigued.
via the iOS? Is that what you're talking about?
No, they're saying you just need Xcode. So that's just the IDE that Apple uses.
Well,
So
I'm assuming maybe if you don't have the Vision headsets, you could probably use your iPhone's camera and use
maybe.
that as the quote unquote display just for developers to kind of get a sense for through the phone's cameras
Mhm.
on spatially how things will look. Not necessarily
Right.
being able to do anything,
Mhm.
but spatially how things will lay out
Yeah.
via augmented reality.
Yeah, I may give it a swirl because I am interested, and the official name for it is visionOS 1.0 developer beta. So, um it's not intended for public use obviously because it is a developer beta, but all indications point again, as it is a developer beta, that is used for developers to, you know, create
Develop
apps
stuff.
or develop stuff. Yeah. So I may actually give it a swirl just to kind of see, what it does or what this is. So yeah, I'll definitely let you know what I find out.
All right.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for the lowdown unless you have something else, Brother Tech.
Nope.
All right, that is going to wrap up the lowdown. We're going to head on over to Second String, where we talk all other tech. I know this is a few weeks away, but it was just announced this week that if I can get it to open, Prime Day. We have the dates for Prime Day, which are July 11th through 12th. They're doing a couple of things different this year, including invite only deals, as well as buy with Prime sites. So, as you know, typically a couple times a year, Amazon does Prime Day, which bodes for different types of deals, and use deals in quotes, um, that are available through the app. They usually kind of roll out things on different days, but they're doing, again, like I said, a little bit different by doing this invite only type of deals. So it's saying that it gives Prime members, which many people are, the ability to request invitations in advance to purchase products that are expected to go on Prime Day. So again, as a user, you can go in and request it. I'm not sure how they determine who gets in, but members who are selected will be notified during Prime Day with instructions on what you need to do to buy any of the items that you've identified that you want to buy. So yeah, I don't know. This is different. What do you think is going on with this whole invite only? Is it just maybe another way to add something else to Prime? Because typically everything deals kind of like with Black Friday. Black Friday now, starts, a month in advance where you could go and see what's out there and even start to buy some of the things. I'm just interested in, I guess, this whole invite only type of deal.
Well, it's to, in my opinion, to increase FOMO because what you can do, for example, if Amazon Prime Day says this exclusive deal on this iPhone is going to be $800 off, right? There's a good bet that enough people are going to be interested in that when it releases on Prime Day that it'll go out of stock or sold
Mhm,
out or whatever the case may be, back order, whatever, right?
mhm,
So what Amazon is trying to do is like, all right, now this is going to be a hot phone. We're going to have a hot price. Why don't you quote unquote RSVP so you can get in line so you can purchase it because it's going to sell out because it's a hot phone and it's a hot deal, right? So that's
mhm,
going to people like us, well, not us, but people in general is going to make people say, all right, well, I don't want to wait until Prime Day. Let me rush out and try to get my RSVP in. And then Amazon is probably going to market or advertise against that and say, we've got thousands of people who have RSVP'd for this phone. Make sure you don't miss it. And that's going to drive the other people who didn't RSVP. It's like, oh, snap. If I want it, I missed my opportunity to RSVP. Let me stand in front of my computer once it
Mhm.
drops so I can hurry up and get it. So it's marketing and advertising. I don't think this is a benefit to us outside of, assuring that we can get the product. But my guess is we probably going to be able to get it anyway. This is
Mhm.
just another way for Amazon to drive up excitement for particular products, which again, like
Mhm.
you mentioned, in quotes, deals, you know, if you look at it objectively, there aren't too many crazy deals like Black Friday deals, which again, those are, you could put quotes around those being deals as
Yep.
well, So it's all, in my opinion, just a marketing stunt to
Mm.
get more people in on Prime Day, who maybe the numbers have dwindled in the past couple years because people figured out that
The
ain't really
deals
no.
really ain't deals.
Right, right. So they're like, all right, what's another way to drum up excitement for Prime Day? Oh, I know. Well, it lets you RSVP on quote unquote deals for quote unquote products that are quote unquote going to sell out, which that's just make people just feel like they got to get in there early, which will drive up the analytics for the site and hopefully it'll drive sales.
Right. So the second thing that's new on Prime Day is buy with Prime. So it was launched last year, but this year, for the first time, Prime Day deals will extend to these third-party sites. So essentially, you'll be able to get the benefits of buying products on Amazon with the shipping and the pricing, but it will actually be on a third party site. So, a site outside of Amazon, still giving you the benefits of Prime Day. So, I think probably that's better than the whole RSVP thing, because you will be able to buy some things outside of Amazon, um, for Prime
Outside of the
Day,
Amazon website.
out of the Amazon website. Yep.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So basically, similar like checkout with Apple Pay. I
mhm,
can pay with Apple Pay. Amazon has the same thing. I don't know if people use it or not. But I guess this is Amazon's way of stepping up that feature.
mhm,
Will enable you to where if you have your saved name, you save your credit card, you save shipping instructions and all that stuff. You saved all that via Amazon.
mhm.
That information will carry over to a you know a, participating
Non-Amazon. Yeah.
yeah, participating website to where when you check out on this website, you can buy with Prime. It'll have all the information saved in there to where you can click one click and then buy, similar to how you do on Amazon's website.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so just a couple of things to note as we get ready for Prime Day in a few weeks. So yeah, if you're into that, that's what's coming. All right, this next story I found a little bit interesting, as all of the Vision Pro conversation has been dominating, most of the tech talks or tech articles, conversations around tech. Meta has said, okay, it looks like we have to do a little bit more. Again, competition is good for the consumer. So, with the newest version of the Meta Quest 2 and the Quest Pro, I think software version 55, this new update is allowing for increased CPU and GPU performance within the headsets alongside updated Messenger and Explore experiences. So, Zuckerberg announced MetaQuest 3 VR headsets at the beginning of the month. And so these enhanced capabilities will be on the products that they already have, as I mentioned, Quest 2 and the Quest Pro. So it looks like these new changes are preemptive to get people that already have these headsets or are going to buy the new Quest 3, give them a little bit of a taste of what Meta has to offer in comparison to what Apple is offering. It looks like it's going to get a 19% GPU increase, and for Quest 2 and for Quest Pro owners, you'll get about an 11% speed increase. And both of the headsets that are currently in market are going to get a 26% performance increase in in CPU power. So again, it's one of those things where as more of these devices come to market, people who've been kind of running the game thus far are realizing they're going to have to up their game to compete.
Yeah, it's just a way again to keep consumers engaged and keep consumers interested in your current products, knowing that there's new stuff coming up around the corner, right? So,
Mhm.
people who were looking at the Vision Pro announcement, like, man, this seems dope.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, their Quest 2s and Quest Pros are collecting dust in a
Mhm.
box over on the side somewhere, right? This is
Mine is
it.
behind me. Literally.
This is Meta's way of saying, "Hey, we got some new stuff. Why don't you blow that dust off, put the headsets on, and see, all the new updated speed, power, processing, whatever, 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 in your
Yep.
headsets in order for you to kind of spark that interest back into using them, so you can kind of get adjusted to it. And then when Meta comes out with, this Quest 3, they won't have people going from, I haven't used my Quest, in months. Why would I buy this new thing? To, hey, I appreciate all the cool new things that they added to my current stuff.
Mhm.
This 3 should be even better, right? So trying to keep people in the new loop, keep people using their products,
Mhm.
like I mentioned, especially when, competitors got new stuff coming shortly.
Yep, absolutely. And again, as I mentioned, competition is good for the consumer. So I don't know when the last time I used my Oculus, but I'll update it and I guess see if I can tell a difference. Mm.
Maybe you wasn't the target audience of
Maybe
this
not.
announcement.
Maybe they weren't coming for me. All right, that is going to wrap up second string. We're going to head over into for the culture, where we talk about things that we care about, things that are either socially relevant or culturally relevant, whether it be related to tech, whether it be related to non-tech. So today, I saw this conversation kicked off on Twitter, of course, and we've had the conversation before about gender wars and all those types of things when it comes to like men and women, and it appears as if on today there's a new version or a new emphasis in gender wars, and it's all related to STEM mentorship. So, trying to find the tweet now. Um, Again, it was on
I'll
social
read it
media.
for
Okay,
you if
can
you
you
got
pulled
it.
it up? Okay.
So it was a tweet on the 21st, which was at the time of this recording was yesterday. The profile user, this travel techie, she's a lady. She says, we need more Black men in tech to start nonprofits that cater to young Black boys. A lot of women are already doing it for young Black girls. Y'all, meaning men, need to start teaching young boys. So that is the tweet that you reference. It kind of sparks this conversation slash gender war as it relates to who should be teaching who, as it relates, or who should be mentoring who, as it
Mhm.
relates to getting Black kids involved in tech.
Right. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up because the conversation around it, a lot of people were saying, well, why don't the girl uh, organizations include boys more? Or it, and then it devolved into why are you expecting men to raise uh, other men's children? And it's just like, this is mentorship. And this is one of the things some person said, um, as a parent, I can't teach my child about mechanics or cooking. That's not my thing, but mentors that are in that space is one of those things that benefits the child to see someone doing the very thing that they are interested in or maybe want to do when they grow up. And it's just one of those things that it was interesting to me how some of the men in this conversation, kind of took it completely left. I know that there are a couple of organizations here in Atlanta that specifically are for young boys in STEM. And I always try and tell people that I know that have boys like, hey, there's a scholarship for this, there's a scholarship for that. But I think the what she was talking about in her comment is there are a lot of organizations for girls, not just Black girls, but girls across the board. And it's not one of the I don't know if it's one of those things where they just aren't as publicized, or the male counterpart isn't as publicized as some of the female ones, or if they're just not enough on a large scale. But it was one of those things where, of the things that we can quote unquote fight about, helping children, being mentors, if you are a man in tech, it seems like it would be, to me, almost a no-brainer to welcome that idea and not necessarily be one to kind of push back against it or have a come at it from a negative aspect. As the resident male techie on this show, does that make any sense?
Yes, it does make sense. I think with anything on social media, based on how we use social media,
Hmm.
people are trying to um, rise above the regular chatter.
Hmm.
So while I don't believe that her tweet, the original poster's tweet,
Hmm.
was meant for chastising men
Hmm.
or for what she's seen, the lack of men creating these programs for boys,
Hmm.
I do believe that she added some spice to the tweet for the sole purpose of getting attention to get people talking about it. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know this lady from nothing, right?
Right.
So I don't know how, what her point of using Twitter is, but in order to rise above the common clutter that is social media, you
Hmm.
have to add some spice in order for it to be seen. And then
Hmm.
I'm assuming that what she wanted was the conversation and, like you mentioned, the idea that more Black men should be starting nonprofits, right?
Hmm.
The problem with that is also the spice added to the tweet because again, I understand how social media works
Hmm.
and I can use something like this tweet and apply it to what I do,
Hmm.
but everybody ain't like me.
Right.
So what people saw was y'all, here's what y'all need to be doing,
That
right?
last line got it, you think?
Yes.
Y'all need to start
Y'all
teaching
need to
boys.
be doing this, that, and the third. And I don't care who you are. Well, I don't want to say that. There are some people who can't see anything but that, right?
Mhm,
They didn't see we need more Black men in tech to start nonprofits to cater to young Black boys.
mhm,
Again, she kind of probably could have just stopped it right there
mhm,
and it would have been the same point, right?
mhm.
But again, that comment would not have
Accusatory
risen.
tone, you think, maybe?
Say what?
It's kinda like an accusatory, tone?
Well, no, it's not even accusatory tone. It's a fact, right?
Mhm,
Men need to Black men need to teach Black boys. That's a
mhm,
fact, right?
mhm,
According to you can make an argument that more Black men need to teach Black boys.
mhm.
You could also make the argument that based on the publicity of Black Girls Code and all these other
Girls Who Code,
organizations
yeah.
started to drive girls, specifically Black girls, to tech.
Mhm.
You know, the like you mentioned, the same publicity is not directed towards all of the programs that, you know, where black men are leading black boys into tech. And I think that's where the problem is. Those two things.
Mhm.
The first thing, you know, y'all need to start teaching boys, which not necessarily accusatory, but it's y'all need, here's what you need to be doing.
Mhm.
You ain't doing it. This is what you need to be doing. That's going to be met with defensiveness. That's going to be met with, you know, not the end result that she was
Mhm.
looking for, which was conversation and just for people to get it, black men to get into the idea of mentoring young
Mm.
boys, you know, because people are going to defend themselves, right?
Right.
Rightfully or wrongfully so, right? And I think wrongfully so because of vitriol, and that's what you're getting
Yeah.
into, the
Yeah.
vitriol in which some of these men push back was like totally uncalled for. You missed the whole point. That's not what she was trying to say. But I mean, ain't that what's to be expected when you put something on social media? People are going to take their own
Their own
insecurities, their
experience.
own experiences,
Yeah.
and project it onto what you was trying to say. So the fact that she's surprised by this, you know, is kind of, you know, anybody surprised by this is, you know, where you been? This is
Yeah.
social media, right?
Yeah.
Um, but
People are gonna be contrarian just for the sake of being
just for being
contrarian.
contrary, and then you add the gender wars on top of it, you know, and then you add, you know, so that's like, you know, I don't take health advice from a crackhead, right? You know, which is severe, but at the same time, you know, men respond to this. Who are you to tell men what they need to be doing? Which
Mm.
again, that whole gender war thing, right? So I
Right.
think um trying to do this on social media was probably not the best way. Again, like I said, her trying to elevate her conversation above the chatter
Mhm.
kind of caused people to think about the tweet in itself in a certain way, and
To
then
get off topic a
also,
little bit.
the response from the men was kind of whack too.
Mhm.
Because if I'm reading this, you know, and it says y'all need to start teaching young boys, I know that there are organizations out there that teach black boys the code. I also know that it seems like there are more organizations for women because women were excluded
Mhm.
from getting into tech in the first place.
Right.
So this new movement of getting black girls into STEM coding development is a response to being shut out,
Denied.
denied in the first
Mhm.
place. So it seems like there are more organizations for women because those are the ones in the spotlight because we need more black women into coding. That's
Mhm.
not because there aren't black organizations where men are teaching boys, is because we need the women more so because there aren't, the numbers wise, there's
Mhm.
still more black boys in technology than there is women. So we need that
Right.
number to come up. So we're going to highlight the Black Girls Code and the all these other ones more so so they can get on the same level. I don't
Mhm.
know if she took, because she mentions in a follow-up tweet, she says there are more black men in tech today, yet I still see more tech nonprofits being started by black women to educate
Mhm.
black girls. I don't know if she said the I as in, well, I don't know what the research says,
Mhm.
but I only see it. Again, you kind of in her case, she's still kind of taking her own experience and
Mhm.
applying it to it. I don't know if she meant it that way or if she actually has some empirical evidence stating that there are in fact more black organizations for black girls versus black boys. I don't know. Like I said, I
Right.
don't know this girl from nothing. You know, when you add in the how do I get my hot take to go
Mhm.
viral, you know, how to get my opinion to go viral to rise above the noise,
Mhm.
you know, and you add that with the gender wars, and then when you add that into people taking things personal, the recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. I think overall the takeaway is we need more black people in STEM fields. Um I was looking for a doctor, a specialist in a particular area, and I was trying to find I first started trying to find a black woman. I didn't find no black women. Now I was like, all right, let me try and find black men. I ain't find no black men. It wasn't until I was like, okay, I'm not going to put any race or gender behind this to see what I can find. I ultimately ended up having to go with a white man, even after I asked my all black doctors, my all black female doctors, if they had any references, and they're like, unfortunately, we don't. But we do know this person, and they're good. So it's one of those things. We need a new in this upcoming generation, we need more, kids that are exposed, made aware. If they show any interest, or even if they don't show any interest, they may not even know that what they like is an actual job. The takeaway is we need more of that across STEM for boys and girls. And, people come with their hot takes. They think, I'm going to have a gotcha. At the end of the day, to me, the goal is we need more black kids, brown kids in these roles, because if not, then we already know what happens when there isn't representation, in whether it be in legal, whether it be in medical, whether it be in technology. We know what that looks like already, so we need to be proactive, to me, in doing those things, whether it's creating a whole new organization, volunteering at a school, volunteering at an existing organization. There are ways to get involved regardless of your gender. And I would think that this would be, to me, I would take it more if I was a man, which I'm not. But if I were, to me, it would come, I would take it as more as a call to action of, hey, we have this gap here, let's see what we can do to kind of fill that gap.
Yeah, no,
and
you're
and maybe some people took that,
I'm
but the
they
loudest
have
voice, yeah.
in the tweets, some people took it, but again, this is social media, man.
Yeah.
And, just me looking at some of the people who responded to her tweets
Hmm.
with the vitriol, and it's like, shut up, man. Because it'd be one thing if you was the CEO of, whatever the case may be, right? And you're in this field or whatever. You just own Twitter,
Yeah.
and you decide to respond. You probably ain't in tech, you ain't in, you just saw this tweet,
Never
saw
sniff text. You know how to play PlayStation. That's your
right,
extent.
right, and you responded, right?
Right.
So even with that, right, you can't it's dangerous when you look at the responses. It can be dangerous when
Mhm.
you even look at the responses and don't consider the actual response,
Right.
because you could see her comment, right? And see it as, oh, yeah, this is a call to action. We do
Mhm.
need more black men mentoring black boys, right?
Mhm.
And then you see responses and then you get upset because not all men feel this way. And it's like, wait a minute, don't take that buster as the voice of all black men, right?
Right.
Don't do that either, because that's
Yeah.
the opposite. You know what I'm saying? So you have to remove yourself, your personal experiences, your personal viewpoints in order to make change. And in social media, there ain't a lot of people that can do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to be careful.
Absolutely. Social media is gonna social media,
Mhm.
unfortunately. All right. That is going to wrap up for the culture. We're going to head over into the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
So this is a tip for Apple. And this is personal. Speaking of personal experiences, right? I'd say last week I uploaded, or imported rather, a large photo library into my Photos app on my Mac.
Okay.
In addition to that, I added just about all of those pictures to the shared iCloud library. This
Mhm.
is a recent thing that was announced in iOS. What is it, 15 now? We're on 15 or we're on 16? I can't remember.
16.
16. It was a feature announced in iOS 16 that enables users to create a shared library and invite users, family members, I think up to 5 people,
Mhm.
to contribute and view this shared library. If they've got pictures in their phones that are could be viewed by that would be nice for other people in your family to view them, you can move those pictures to the shared library, and all the members of the shared library can see them. They can download them, whatever the case may be, right?
Mhm.
So last week I dumped maybe thousands of
Mhm.
pictures into my photos library and also added them to the shared iCloud library.
Mhm.
The problem with that was all of our iOS devices that are members of this shared iCloud library took those photos as photos that were added to everybody's library on that particular date.
Mhm.
That doesn't sound like it makes a big deal, but if
Mhm.
you have a bunch of pictures that you personally have taken
On
with
that
your
same day?
phones before that and after that, it
Ah.
interrupts the chronological order of those photos. So you have a bunch of pictures taken before the date that I imported the photos,
Mhm.
and then you have thousands of photos that I imported and added to the library. And then after all of those are the rest of the pictures that you took on your phone, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And this is particularly for the camera roll. This is not for your your personal photo library. So if you're a member of the shared iCloud library, right, and you go on the Photos app, your pictures will still show up in chronological order. It's just when you go to the recents view in the Photos app and when you go to the camera roll, like if you open up your camera, like you're taking a picture and you click on the little box of the camera roll in the corner where you can see all the recents, you'll see all of my photos that I have vomited into the camera roll. And you'll also see those pictures that I vomited into the recents view. So my tip for Apple is again, this is personal, but I can see this being a problem for a lot of people using the shared iCloud library because that may not be a popular thing. But if you are, and you are, because Apple all the time says, hey, we see this picture, we think it would look dope in the shared iCloud library. Well, the second you upload it into the shared library, it puts the date, not the date it was taken, but the date the picture was added to the library, which could interrupt your camera roll. So my fix or my tip to Apple is you need to do one of two things. When people add pictures to the shared iCloud library, they shouldn't be added as the date you added it to the shared library. It should be added as the date the actual picture was taken. That will keep the chronological order of your camera roll. Or two, create two views in your library. Create a recents and then recently added to the library, right? So you can then kind of go between the two views because my kids, as much as I want them to, they could care less about the shared library. I want that to be an option for them to where we take pictures and I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
add the pictures to the library so we can all see them.
And
But
I don't have to ask you for them. You can
they
just
don't,
put them in there at
I
your
don't have to
leisure.
exactly right. But at the same time, they just want to be able to look at their pictures.
Yeah.
And if they're looking at their pictures in the recents view in the Photos app, or if they're looking in those pictures in the camera roll, they don't want to be bombarded with all of our junk, right?
Right.
Quote unquote, right? So either Apple A, when you add photos to my tip for the week is for Apple is when people add pictures to the shared library, it should add them in the date that the pictures was taken, not the date that it was added to the library. That's one. Or Apple in the Photos app and in the camera roll, they need to create a recently taken photos view and then or add a recently updated view so where people can toggle to those but still have the ability to just look at their photos
Their
without
own
having to get
photos.
bombarded. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's my tip for the week. Again, that's a personal issue, but I can see it being a problem for family members who are constantly adding pictures to the shared
Mhm.
library. We don't want to see them as you added. We want to see them per the date the picture was taken. And
Mhm.
it should be simple for Apple. Go into
Yeah.
the EXIF data and add those categories, the date the picture was taken, the date the picture was added, and then let the users decide how they want to view
How
them.
they
Not
wanna
just
view it.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Cool. And with graduation season, summer vacation, start of school, all that coming up in the next few months, that might be pretty helpful to some of you.
Yep.
All right, that is going to wrap up the show this week. Brother Tech, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. And quickly, just want to say happy birthday to my middle child. She's turning 13 today as the time of we're recording. So by the time you listen to this, we will have yet another teenage woman in the house. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. Happy
It is
birthday.
what it is. Good luck. Is all I can say. And you too can find me all over social media at Tech Savvy Diva. So, that being said, you can definitely connect, comment, and share and support our show. You can get all the details on that by heading over to snubblewest.com. Thanks, everybody. That's going to wrap it up for this week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.